When I look back on it, I'm still not sure how I survived that day. Let me tell you the story about the time I messed with the wrong doll. It all started on a hot Saturday afternoon when I went over to my best friend Jake's house. We were bored and looking for something fun to do. His little sister, Emma, was in the living room playing with her favorite doll, this creepy old thing named Molly. The doll had huge, glassy eyes that seemed to follow you wherever you went, and a frozen smile that always gave me the creeps. I never understood why Emma loved that thing so much. "Let's mess with her," Jake said with a grin. I could tell from the look in his eyes that he was up to no good, and being the dumb kid I was, I went along with it. Jake snatched the doll out of Emma's hands. She screamed, "Give her back, Jake! Stop it!" She was furious, and tears welled up in her eyes. "Ah, is Molly your best friend?" Jake teased, holding the doll above his head. I laughed and joined in, even though something in the pit of my stomach told me this was a bad idea. We started tossing the doll back and forth, laughing as Emma jumped and begged us to stop. "She's going to get dirty! Stop it!" she cried. Jake took it a step further. He threw the doll on the floor and kicked it across the room. "Oops," he said with a smirk. "You're going to regret this," Emma screamed. She stormed off to her room, slamming the door behind her. Jake and I kept laughing. "She'll get over it," he said. But as I bent down to pick up the doll, something strange happened. Molly's glassy eyes seemed to shift ever so slightly, and her smile, that weird frozen smile, turned into a frown. I blinked and shook my head. "Did you see that?" I asked Jake. "See what?" he said, grabbing the doll from me. "It's just a stupid toy." Before I could answer, the doll's head snapped to the side, and its mouth opened wide. It let out a growl, a deep, guttural sound that no doll should ever make. Jake froze. "What the hell?" And then Molly bit him, hard, right on the shoulder. "Ow! Get it off me!" Jake screamed, flailing his arms. The doll clung to him like a wild animal. I grabbed Molly and yanked her off, but she was stronger than she looked. Her little plastic hands clawed at Jake, leaving tiny scratches on his skin. We threw the doll across the room and ran, but Molly wasn't done with us. She landed on her feet like a cat, her head jerking unnaturally to face us. Her frown deepened, and her glassy eyes gleamed with something that felt alive. "Run!" I shouted. We bolted out of the living room and down the hallway, but Molly was right behind us. Her tiny feet pitter-pattered against the hardwood floor, faster than they should have been. She leapt onto the banister and skittered along it like a spider. Jake and I split up. He dashed into the kitchen, and I ran upstairs, hoping to lose her. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely breathe. I slammed the door to Jake's room and pressed my back against it, trying to catch my breath. That's when I heard the giggle. A high-pitched, bone-chilling laugh echoed through the house. I peeked through the crack under the door and saw Molly's shadow moving. She was coming for me. The door creaked open, and I screamed. Molly stood there, her head tilted to one side, her tiny hands curled into fists. She lunged at me, and I grabbed a baseball bat from the corner of the room. "Stay back!" I yelled, swinging wildly. I hit her square in the chest, and she flew across the room. But when I looked again, she was gone. "Wes!" Jake shouted from downstairs. "She's here in the kitchen!" I ran down to help him. Molly was on the counter, throwing knives and forks at Jake, like some kind of possessed maniac. One knife narrowly missed his head and stuck into the wall behind him. We grabbed a broom and a chair, trying to defend ourselves. The battle raged on for nearly 45 minutes. No matter how many times we knocked her down, she kept coming back, angrier and faster each time. Finally, we heard the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Jake's parents were home. Molly froze in the middle of the living room, her head slowly turning toward the door. The moment Jake's mom walked in, Molly collapsed to the floor, lifeless and still. We stared at her in disbelief. "What are you two doing?" Jake's mom asked, eyeing the mess we'd made. "And why is this house a mess?" Jake's dad added. "Nothing," Jake said quickly. Just playing around." Jake's dad walked into the kitchen, avoiding stepping on the silverware lying on the floor. He placed the bags of groceries on the kitchen counter, then looked at me and Jake. "You have 30 minutes to put these groceries away and clean this mess up, or you're facing punishment for a month," he said to Jake. "Wesley, I'm sure your parents will do the same if they get word about this." He warned me. I dropped my head. "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir. We will clean it up right now." He nodded at both of us and followed Jake's mother upstairs. Later, we crept into Emma's room. And there was Molly, lying peacefully on Emma's bed like nothing had happened. Her smile was back, wide and innocent. Emma looked at us with a smug grin. "I told you you'd regret it." Jake and I never touched that doll again. And to this day, I can't look at a baby doll without breaking into a cold sweat.